Have you ever been victimized by New Age spirituality?
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting.
You're gonna want to listen up.
I'm Megan, an intuitive life coach and Reiki master.
I'm Ryan, a professional astrologer, and we want to show you what spirituality is by talking about what it is not.
Con artist.
Yes.
Snake oil salesman.
There are so many susceptible people out there.
And then they're tainted. They're ruined. They don't want to come back to spirituality.
We still have a lot to learn, and we will humble ourselves and learn, I think, every freaking day. This is Clairanoyance,
a podcast of spiritual interference. Spiritual awakenings coming to rock your world.
I was just thinking, yeah, like it is. It's a rock your world thing, and it's like a blow your mind wide open thing, isn't it? It's like the idea of a spiritual awakening.
They're so gnarly. I mean, they're so, in hindsight, you're like, gosh, that was great. But while you're going through it, you're like, what kind of pure fuckery is going on here?
I know.
Am I sane? Am I okay? Is like, what is happening to me? All
truthfully.
Questions. Yeah. Who can I talk to? You know, like who's not going to, make me feel crazy? Then you go, like, especially now, if you have a spiritual awakening, you go Googling on the internet and you see, and you come across just a woo lady or dude. Ouch. Oh my God, what if you came across like Keisha? That was you have a spiritual awakening. And you can reference an episode of you, and you cut like that's scary. So if you can't tell, our topic is spiritual awakening.
Yeah. Speaking of, like, I have actually had some really good feedback on that episode about like the spiritual psychosis, the Keisha. What did we even call that episode? Yeah, it was like spiritual. I don't know if I can remember what I called that, but that was the crazy one: spiritual assaults, psychic attacks, and spiritual assaults. That episode is gnarly. Like I've gotten some really cool feedback on that. And that's like that is like unfortunately I think side effect of coming into this through a spiritual awakening. If you don't have, and I don't blame people, but I think that's why our message is important, because if you don't have people who can help like corral your ass a little bit, I'm serious. Like then I think you're gonna go off the deep end. And I was thinking about for myself, like I had a better thought about this, like an epiphany, and I didn't think to write it down. So I'm not going to say this, honestly, as profound as it was when I was thinking about it. But
did you hate that? You're like, this is going to be good. And then later on, you're like, God dang it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about some stuff, like, and we'll go real in depth in like a part 2, maybe part 3, you guys. But I was thinking, we're kind of talking about like, why do people spiritually awaken? Why? How? Who gets chosen? Why is this happening? And like, what's the process? And are you genetically predisposed to this stuff? Like, what things facilitate the awakening experience?
That's something I never thought about. Like,
yeah,
I just never, until we reference this, I never thought like the who, what's, because you have certain people who are just like, no, I'm an atheist. Like they're like, I'm dirt after this. Like then, so how are you? Then some people, I just always likened it since I'm a Pisces. So I was like, of course I'm going to get down with this. I'm a Pisces. Like, duh, like, oh, you're an alligator. Cool. What's that?
Yeah. And I think like, and I was so different, and honest to God, I'm like, thank God I was different. I was interested in these things because like Gemini curious, right? And like I really was. I was always interested in like odd topics. I even remember like in like middle school even learning about like, I think technically it probably was like Wicca, but like just the idea of like gods and mythologies and like that sort of stuff. Just I had like an interest in these like things that were so esoteric. I think probably because it broke the monotony of life, right? Like there was just these like fantastical things, and I was really interested. But like coming into it, having like a true blown like spiritual awakening,
fucking
crazy.
Sucks. And then I've never, and dear listeners, if you're one of these rare gems who's had a spiritual awakening that was flowers and just roses, and how
Does
we
that
probably.
happen?
I don't know. I want to know. So please email us or hit us up on the Instagram. If you had a spiritual awakening, it's kind of like losing your virginity. In the movies, you think it's like this beautiful, sweet, and then it's really nothing like that.
No.
When your cherry gets popped, it's like,
No,
What?
but it's frustrating because there is a no going back energy. There is a no going back. You cannot unlearn it, unsee it, unfeel it,
You cannot
whatever.
put the, I just had a conversation with one of my clients and because he was concerned about this and I was like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I mean, you can
Yeah.
try, but like, can you imagine trying to put toothpaste back in a tube? How silly.
No, you can't do it. You cannot do it.
You need a new container, a new vessel for
Yeah,
the paste. Mhm.
abso-fucking-lutely. I mean it. I'm
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're talking like spiritual awakenings. I would like love actually too. Like I know we've like jokingly kind of been like right into our podcast. Like tell us what you think. But for real, actually this would be really interesting. I'd say like only do it if or give us permission to share your story. Especially because we're gonna do a part two, potentially part three. We're gonna do a little
Yeah.
series here, like deep diving into some really freaking fascinating topics related to spiritual awakenings. And I would say like we go to our website, clairvoyance.com. There is a contact form you can submit something.
Yeah. Go check it out.
Also, the website, every time we upload a podcast, I go into the website and I add the new episode
It's
on
great. You do
there,
a great job.
the whole
Yeah.
fucking
Go
thing.
check, go appreciate this man, all his hard work.
So yeah, go, like submit to us, tell if you're interested, if you wouldn't mind, we can leave your name anonymous, but like maybe in a part two we'll share some of these stories just to like care, like
Don't be
hear other
anonymous.
people's.
Be loud and proud, people.
Well, I
Embrace
mean,
your
let us.
story.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Doxing is a whole culture these days. So,
I
uh,
know.
yeah, I know. So I don't know. Whatever you're comfortable with, but like, I think it would be really cool to maybe in the next part, like, have a little section where we just share the situations, the scenarios that like
Yeah.
were a spiritual awakening for other people. Because you and I are just two people. We have various things here, and they're really. I can point to two biggies, but otherwise, it's like
What was it? Yeah. What was, let's refresh everybody. What was your spiritual awakening?
my okay, so I guess
It all began. It all
yeah, like
started.
no, it's weird. I like it there was a such a opening up like when I was younger, like I was like put in youth groups and shit. Sorry, mom. I mean like it was like socially okay. Like my best friend went and whatever, but like, it's like dogmatic and it's just some weird shit.
Yeah.
And like I would go to these like camps and everybody's like doing their fucking hands raising in the air, like feeling God. And like
Oh.
then these kids come down to the stage in the middle of this like, the final night of the retreat and like they're all like giving their life to Jesus. And I every fucking time I would never go down. Like people would like do it and I'm like, I don't feel this. Like I don't understand what you're doing.
Soul
And it was
cringe. Did you get
frustrating.
a soul cringe when you saw them? Cause like,
No, I got a something's wrong with me. Like, why can't I?
oh,
Really? So there was this like sense of like something's happening, but like, why can't I? And something's wrong. Like, I can't, not something's wrong with me, but like something's wrong. Like, this isn't it. Like,
yeah.
there's more. I was so like, I was always like staring at the stars, like, loved that shit. Like, that would be my spirituality. Obviously, it's my own
Hmm.
profession now. But like, um, there were all these like little rolling things, going and just having general interest in things. My dad died in 2011. That was like really a thing. Like it was weird. I would say more than like a spiritual awakening. It probably did something, but more in the background spiritually, I'd say. More than anything, it was like emotionally, like that was an
Yeah.
emotional awakening experience. I don't think I've ever cried harder. Well, no, I have. I cried so hard though, at that funeral specifically. I'm normally pretty composed. Now I'm just like a crybaby, but like because I've been opened emotionally,
Yeah.
right? And so that happened, and I do think there was like a spiritual thing there, right? Okay, but then
Hmm.
then keep going through life after 2011. I move across the country, I mean, I had already moved at that point, but I think just coming into adulthood and stuff and like figuring out life on your own and like what am I doing? Like I just like was always introspective as fuck, asking these
Hmm.
things and interested in this stuff. Like I just for fun would look up my birth chart periodically and try and find new like websites that had different like interpretations and things. So like I know I was in tune. Then it really my first like serious freaking big one
Hmm.
was in what was it 2017? I'm like forgetting now
Hmm.
when my ex killed himself and like I just
Mm.
got this news out of nowhere and it was nuts and
Oh,
and I've
wow.
seen this happen in this way. Like I've heard other people tell me this like unprompted, and it just blows my mind how it happens like this. Um,
Hmm.
Even like kind of similar to like Eric's interview from which was last week's episode, you guys, I think. Um, and where I had just connected with me and this ex. He was like my like high school person, you know. He went to a
Hmm.
rival high school. It was a whole thing, but it was like amazing. He was like, you know, my safe zone in high school. Like means the world to me. I would every time when I moved across the country, I'd still go back home and visit him. Like I'd go to his
Oh,
apartment and see him. I didn't for like 2 years. Like in the 2 years leading up to him dying. He was always a
oh,
very depressed kid. Me too, but I grew out of it at a certain point. Thank you, ecstasy, to be honest. Like it showed me what happiness felt like. Dead serious. But he
yeah.
never could grow out of it. And so the last time I remember seeing him, he gave me grief about moving across the country and that like I had left and he's just still sitting there doing nothing. And it was so sad. And I was just like, I felt so bad for him. And I noticed how bad I felt. This is going somewhere, I promise. But I noticed how bad I felt
Uh-huh.
being around someone that way. It didn't like I will always love that kid, right? But I just remember being like, I don't know if I'll see him next time I go back. Like I don't know that I'm gonna make the effort to try and see him because I
Yeah.
just feel bad about myself and he's still in this shitty space and it
Well,
sucks.
also it doesn't sound like he took any accountability for where
No.
I mean, bro, you could move too. Like I got no
Yeah.
patience for that. You're not
Yeah.
gonna make me feel bad for improving my life when, you can do the same
Yeah. Yeah.
incrementally.
Yeah. He had a lot of wild trauma, not gonna lie. Like I mean, there was a lot of stuff there. He was a super, super, super alcoholic,
Hmm.
tons of fucking weed. Anyway, so then, you know, 2 years go by and like 2 weeks before he dies, I reconnect with a really close friend that was it basically introduced me and him. And she was like super close to me in high school and all still is. But we just hadn't talked in a while. And so out of nowhere we connected and then we were on the phone. It was so nice to talk to her. And so we were on the phone like every other night for like 2 weeks straight, just like talking about so
Catching
much. It was
up.
so
Yeah.
sweet. And he came up and we were like, where's he at? Like I was like, I haven't seen him in a couple years. She hasn't seen him. She was like, I think he maybe moved to Chicago. And I was like, damn, we should really like talk to him and like see how he's doing. Cause you know, he's
Hmm.
always been not doing well. And that was like maybe 1 week before. And then I'm sitting like in this work thing and she calls me and she goes, are you sitting down? And she was the one that
Oh,
delivered the news to me. I don't know how he did it. I never want to know. But when he did that, that was the nuttiest fucking thing. That was the day I met the astrologer who changed my life and moved me into astrology. So I was in this very susceptible space. But I literally, that experience of coming to terms with him dying
uh-huh.
impacted me so much more than even my dad dying. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why. Like, my dad, maybe it's because I knew going into it that,
You knew that
like,
that
yeah,
would be coming.
yeah. And then it was just like the frustration, I think, of like, he came to mind. I had reconnected with our mutual connection. Why didn't we call him? Like, that was frustrating. And that's the thing I mean is like, there's the shared experience. Like, someone that I'm very close with here had the same thing happen at the same freaking time with one of his friends. Eric was saying his mom visited him like in his dreams, remember, and he woke up crying
Hmm.
and then he found out she died. Like these things happen. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So I'm like, that to me is like wild, but it was just like the processing of that and like putting myself in his shoes and just remembering like how important he was to me. Not that my dad wasn't important, but it was like it's just different, you know?
Yeah.
And this was so I was just nuts and I couldn't imagine put myself in that situation and I was just so sad. I that was the hardest I've ever cried in my life. Was probably for like a long I don't know how long I was crying for that, but it was like a couple months and I just like in these couple months was wildly awakening
Yeah.
and had met that astrologer and everything was just changing at that point in a very very concentrated amount of time. It was probably like 1 to 2 months where I just fully became spiritual. So that was my like really first really big one. So I'll
Hmm.
just end that there. But it was a death of someone, so it's trauma, right? Like forces you to
Well,
confront these
you said it
crazy
there.
things.
That was my first big one because when
That
we
was my
were,
first big one. There were plenty of things that led up to it, like openings and openings and openings, but then this was just this like upgrade, truly, you know, when they
yeah,
say Kundalini rising, like that's the snake in your spine that like, vroom, and then all of a sudden, it
yeah,
really does feel like it's like the mind being blown wide open. Like I do not know how else to say it. I didn't know what was happening to me. I would like be in the
Uh-huh.
car, freaking bawling and pull over to the side of the road. I can't see the road right now. Like I'm like, it was just a fucking craziest experience of my life. I'm so serious.
Well, and then you have, but then like so, but the first one, and then you'll continue on this path to have a series of
Yeah. I'll get into my second one
little ones.
later, but let's go to you.
Same deal. 'Cause say kind of when you were talking about youth group. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and I've shared this before, but I would get Sunday school. Like it was Sundays, we were going to church, and you were going to Sunday school. That was the law of the land in my parents' household. So we did that, and I just remember just it was like, okay, like I believe in God. I know God, or there's something here, but I'm not where y'all are at. Like
Mhm.
I'm not where I don't have the vibes. But my classmates, my Sunday school classmates did. And so in Catholicism, it's like you get baptized, then communion in second grade where you like, you know, eat the body of Christ, bread, and like have a little wine. I remember being so bummed because I thought wine should taste so much better than it did when I was 8. And then when you're in 8th grade, you receive another sacrament, confirmation. And so that's a big year, 8th grade. So, but I was just like raising my hand. I'm torturing these Sunday school teachers because I'm like, I mean, I had such a problem. Like, y'all, birth control, come on. Like, you can't, the Catholic Church doesn't get, also gay people. Because at this point, I knew I liked girls too. So I knew that I was like a little gay. And I was like, you can't tell me that like I'm going to hell.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, who made these rules? And they like, let's talk. And so everyone else just wants their donuts. They're going along with the program. They actually took me aside. They're like, do you really want to do this? And I was like, I have been coming to Sunday school since I was 5. Like, we're doing this. Like,
Mhm.
we'll ask questions later. So then, I believed in God. Like I said, I always believed, but it was just like the Catholic Church just wasn't hitting. And then stuff starts to come out, and you're like, so then, and
Shocker.
I was a party girl, and I, it was a night after. So I was doing bar invasions and I was doing raves, and my business was starting to kick. And it was a Tuesday night. It was August 19th, 2011.
Oh wow.
And Josh and I had gone out and gotten wasted. And I was doing a lot of, I was drinking. It was a lifestyle. I'm throwing raves for a living. Like
Mhm.
I'm doing bar invasions, and I was so
Yeah.
protective over this, like, bag of blow. And
Mhm. Mhm.
um, Josh then was like, you have a problem. Like, you got to get it together. And he started to tell me, like, give me this Rudy speech. And behind him, I thought I was losing my mind. A screen like appeared. And I was like, okay, I've done just an insane amount of cocaine. And he's right. I am losing my mind. There is a fucking movie playing behind this man as he's like giving me this speech. I have no idea what he said, but I see like kind of where I'm gonna go if I don't get it together. And I was like, that's a wrap for me, son. Like he finishes it, and I'm like, I remember being like, you have an option right now. And it was like I had this feeling. It was like you can either stay here and you will die. Like I don't know how that, but like, or you got to walk through this. And so I was like, I'm done. I'm done with everything. And he was like, what do you mean? And so was like like I don't think anyone ever expects me when I'm like make a decision like that. I'm walking through the front door. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm done with the party and I'm done with this. But it was such a peaceful feeling. And then I was on the most hellacious ride for the next year, hoping and praying. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? My whole life is a party girl. What am I gonna do? What do you mean? Like, who am I? I went from having a certain like knowing what I was going to make, knowing nothing. I was just sitting
Mhm.
there for a month. And then I was like, let me call my friend, Valerie Stinson, who my high school friend. I hadn't talked to her in forever. And I was like, or I'm sorry, a childhood friend. We had known each other since we were in 3rd grade. And she had just gotten back from this is before ayahuasca was popular. She
Yeah.
had been in Peru for months, just hopping around to shaman, having these spiritual experiences. There was nothing like this on the internet. You couldn't find it. And she was like, yo, like, this is what I've been doing. And I was so fascinated by this. And I was like, tell me everything. And then at the end of the conversation, she goes, well, hey, you're a psychic medium and I got to go. Talk to you later. Bye. And hung up. And I was like, oh. And that really, I was like, okay, so what does this mean? Because I've
Yeah.
always been able to read people. And that sent me on a whole nother journey. And then a few months later, I was bartending and I was like, okay, if I'm a healer, because I'd gone to a few fairs and I had gone to, like, people would seek me out in these spirit and they would be like, you come here, your grandmother. And they would describe my grandmother, this woman who I'd never met to a T. She was like, she has this message for you. So I was like, I was sick of going, not sick, what a blessing, but I was like, okay, I'm going to these places. You're telling me I'm a healer. What does this mean? And how does one get this party started? So I was like, yo, God, spirit, if I'm meant to do this, send me a teacher. And 3 days later, this lady walks into my bar. It's a Tuesday. It's hot. It's almost a year to the date of my first spiritual awakening, where I'd spent this year just philandering, flimmy flaming all over the place. And she sat down and got a one of those apple beers. And I was
Mm.
like, so what's your story? And she was like, I'm an energy healer. And I was like, shut the fuck up. I have summoned you. And then
Hmm.
so it was a year process essentially of just me
Yeah.
being like, I don't know what I'm doing,
Hmm.
but I'm scared and sad and miserable and I'm confused and what the fuck is this?
That's so nuts, man. Yeah, and I think that's interesting too of like the not preparation, but like the process of that. Yeah, that it's like it's a myth that it's always a like one moment thing and
No.
that's it and then immediately you're changed. That happens. That's my second thing. I'll kind of just briefly say that one next, but um that I think like the process is so interesting. I've used this example in like other scenarios. Um
Hmm.
recently. It's weird how this is like fit things, but like this, you're making me think like just the things that lead up to this sort of stuff and awakening. It feels like so biblical in the sense of like God speaks to you and is like, you now must go walk through the desert, my child. And you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, what am I going through this like process for? And then you end up like realizing there's this thing happening and you come to the light or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I don't read the Bible. Some bits and pieces, sometimes just astrologically. But like it's like a quest. It's like a quest. There's
Yes.
something going on there.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
And so that whole year, so from August 19th to when Chandler walked into my bar. So, like I got to get clean. I stopped doing drugs. I'm like, stop. I'm still drinking though, but not as much. But I thought that like blow was my problem. So I was like, okay. And I'm just like, I start waiting tables. It's just so crazy. And I'm so confused. All of 2011 and 2012, I'm just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then this lady comes in and she's like, this is what you're doing. And I had no money too at this point, $0. And so she had been given by her teacher, she had to do 365 acts of seva, which was selfless acts of humanity. So I got to study, and I mean, like right underneath this lady's armpit, essentially. Bless it. She was a Gemini too. She
Love.
was a Gemini, yeah. And so, and she just like welcomed me into her life, into her children's lives. And for this year, I was just like, ba-da, ba, ba-da. And so I was with her hula hooping, just kind of like airy fairy, yeah, and it was the most incredible experience. And then one day I remember her saying to me, she was like, we're gonna grow apart one day, and you might dislike me. And I was like, no, that'll never happen. What are you talking about? And sure as shit, she was like, no, you have to, because and that happened. And you think you got abandonment issues. You will certainly, those will be
Yeah.
triggered when your spiritual teacher is like,
You might, yeah.
she became a professional paddleboarder. I mean, like, how?
So weird. So weird. First of all, mine was a Gemini too. He also didn't there was no like malice or anything. He just like his life
Yeah.
took a very, very, very different turn all of a sudden. And I was left to my own devices very quick. So I'm very glad and like I'm glad we both had that experience. I recommend it to other people. Like if you caught a teacher that's like showing you the way while you're going through something, you're experiencing that. And there's a person wiser than you available to be a wayfinder, use it if they're offering, if they're offering, and
Mhm.
don't expect it that long. It is like the mark of a good mentor, role model, teacher that you release the child back into the world. You show them what you can for a bit and then go.
Hmm.
And it's so important though, because that's like, again, like if you're just dealing with these things, like you're gonna fucking like without anybody who is in this space, like you're gonna that's the psychosis. That's when you're gonna go
Well, and
crazy.
I think that's the issue that with people are having these spiritual awakenings or they're not having spiritual awakenings and they're curious about spirituality. And because there's the ease of access of information, that you're just getting led down a path. Because before spirituality, you had this moment. I don't want to call it an issue. You had this moment, and then you had to search it for yourself. It had to find you. And now that's not the case. So there's just too much information and there are too many quackadoos out there who are like Keisha, like Finnegan. Oh my God. If I would have like had like a this, oh, let me go search this for a teacher. And here's this man with the fucking flute. I just got a thing with jazz flutes. And, or this girl who's out here saying she's spiritually attacked. I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm going to put the
Yeah, it's
toothpaste
too
back in the tube. Okay. Like,
no.
how do I get back in there? I don't want to do this.
Yeah. No. Not okay, not okay, not okay. Not okay. Um, yeah, so like these are like, I mean, two spiritual experiences, basically, awakenings. People can
Hmm.
point to so many different things. You hear about it all the time, but like, um, I don't know. Like my only other one that I would like bring up right now, there's been like many. Part of me is like, am I going through one right now too? You kind of
Yes.
always are though. Like that's kind of the thing. Once it cracks open, you're just like, it's forever. But definitely one happened, I think it was like top of 2019.
Hmm.
Um, I it was on shrooms, just on shrooms by myself, and that was a facilitated experience then, right? I've always been very lucky. I started this shit early. I would say that also was part of my opening very from a very young age was like consciousness, like drugs expand your consciousness. They just fucking do.
Psychedelics, not
Yeah.
cocaine.
No. No, not cocaine. Like no, and I would really yeah, no. No, no. I'm
Pure
not I'm not
MDMA mushroom, something like that. But yes.
Yeah, yeah, acid, that's a big one. But yeah, shrooms especially, I'd say like this is not a recommendation. We're not like telling you to do drugs. But anyway, I needed it real bad. I was definitely going through this like wild
Hmm.
thing and I wanted to make sense of it. And for some reason, I've always been able to have an intention sorted out when I
Hmm.
go in to drugs with an intention, right? And
Yeah.
good God, did this get sorted out way beyond? Like I had what I needed taken care of, taken care of. That wasn't even the spiritual experience. It was this astral projection of myself. I won't even get into the whole thing because, to be honest, part of this whole thing was like basically like a promise that I made to the universe that I can't say certain things about this. I know that that sounds fucking nuts, but like truthfully, that was like part of this. I can't say a couple things. There will be a point in time where I can talk about what I know.
Because it's your journey and it's your that's a private experience, which is okay because not everyone needs to know every damn thing that you're doing.
Your relationship to the universe is personal and that's it.
It's
Nobody else knows
yours.
that. That's why
Yeah.
you sound crazy when you talk about the things that you experience in this world, like this, like spirituality or on drugs, because it's personal. Nobody gets it. Nobody else is experiencing it like you. And that is the fucking point. My thing when I did this, like I astral projected far out beyond our solar system. Like it was the fucking nuttiest thing, man.
You
And
went
like
past
I don't
Pluto. Did
Yes,
you like,
I went to deep, 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 deep space, which is a really big deal. Like when you consider astral projection terms, this is a whole different episode. But if you're talking about dimensions, there's a lot going into like the sacred geometry and the dimensions and the astronomy of all this, where as you move beyond the solar system outside, it's kind of like a map representation of it consciousness expanding. So like each planet beyond takes you into this new like kind of like level or dimension. They kind of stand for different dimensions. So I went
yeah.
beyond where I've ever been. And basically this whole thing happened that the best, probably like the simplest thing I could say without giving everything away is that this
Hmm.
big ancient cave opened up. But then I realized it literally like it just looked like this massive ancient cave. And it was like a bridge cave in the middle of the fucking universe. And the most amazing thing in the world, but I could tell it was ancient right away. It was just like,
Yeah.
what? And then I realized, can't say how, but like I realized it was an intestine. It was just like, and it sounds weird. I know it sounds gross, but it was
No.
gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. Like I don't know how else to explain it. It was this ancient intestinal cave. And basically the big revelation that I can say from that was the realization. And this was just an immediate, awakening experience that changed me completely. And how I view so much is just that the entire universe is a living organism. It is all alive. I was in the universe's intestine at that point in time. And this is not like as I've gone on from that like awakening experience, meaning like I
You
felt at
straight up
one with everything, right?
misfrizzled it. You had a misfrizzle
Yes.
experience. And also the intuition lives, we say intuition lives in the gut.
No, yeah, I know. And I have your sixth house matters for like health and shit too, like where that really ties into like your experience here. My sixth house is Cancer and the moon in Cancer, and those are gut, digestive tract, like all of that. So it's very, very real for me that that would have been a thing. I think that's so fascinating. But then I came to realize, I think it's let me make sure I'm not getting this name wrong, but like that there's actually there's like a belief system. Yeah, pantheism, which is a doctrine which identifies God with
Uh-huh.
the universe or regards the universe as a manifestation of God. It's literally essentially that like the universe is a living organism all on its
Uh,
own. And we're just these little parts of it. I
how
know,
could
but
you
like
not
the
believe
way of
that?
right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it because people look at like Pluto and they're like, that's not alive. It's just this fucking thing. Like these things seem dead and like,
What?
just like think no, like it makes sense to me why people wouldn't view it that way. But I can't help now. Like I can't help. I mean, like as I can't. I don't know. It's just like I was in the intestine. I see now like the interconnectedness of all things with it. It's like how you have all this bacteria all over you,
Yeah.
just living all over you, and you don't even know it. Or like the soil, Earth's soil is a living organism. They've literally proved this. It is like a massive organism on Earth. So
Yes.
everything's alive. It's just amazing to feel that connectedness. But that was the most profound like immediate because it was so potent and concentrated spiritual awakening I have ever had. That was this thing, and I can't say all of it, but yeah, crazy to me.
That's yeah. So that's round two. I think you just continue to go through like you'll have minor moments and then large moments, and
Hmm.
it's just
Hmm.
that's what's up.
Yeah, and it often cracks through trauma, right? Like I won't even get into the whole thing, but like my last breakup, like I think that was a spiritual experience for me. It was a lot longer process
Pain
that many things I'm
is.
still learning to, but like there was a concentrated component of it, and the spiritual awakening of that more was relational, right? It was like in the ways that people treat each other, and like what I won't accept now, and how I want to treat other people, and like to the sacredness of relationship and the importance of having relational abilities. And it's so big for me now. But that was like definitely a spiritual experience.
Who you are is defined by what you are willing to struggle for. Like we're in this like weird realm, but like of where people want to not deal with they either over identify with the negativity of life and the suffering or they're trying to avoid it. And it's like you got to find a nice middle here or you're going to be cracked like a walnut. I mean, but most of the time you're going to have your spiritual awakenings and it's not going to be pleasant,
Mm-mm. No,
which is why
no.
we want to hear from you if you've had a sunshine experience because you are
Well,
rare.
and there's so much sunshine in it. Like that's like kind of the part of it. There really is, but it's
Hmm.
not an easy thing, especially just I think the dis-ease of it is that society is not set for it. The only thing that it's set for is Christianity. If your spiritual awakening is happening in that way, if you've found Jesus, like I was saying, that to me is the equivalent of a spiritual awakening. The people who like give their life to Jesus, like that, I believe that people will have that experience, and that
Yeah.
brings them into like a spiritual awakening process. And I just think that that is a very narrow thing, and it works for some people. They need that fucking structure or whatever, go for it. But like I like that's the only way society is set
Well,
for.
so obviously in the States, Christianity is, prevalent, but same deal for like where Islam is the, the religion. I think that if it's just the religious awakenings that
Hmm.
it's beautiful if it happened for you, but it just never slapped for me.
No, no, yeah, like I mean, like it is a little frustrating. I think that's maybe even part of the frustrating experience because we don't have the pretty story to wrap it in, right? Like when people give their life to Jesus, oh my God, I'm part of this now like age-old narrative, and there's a
Yeah.
book and there's this community,
We're
and
just out here raw dogging by
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah, and so you have this nice. Yeah, that I never thought of it from that perspective.
it's why it's also a problem, right? And you can get wrapped up in all the wrong shit. Like really, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of brings me to like we're gonna deep dive on some other like really fascinating topics, okay, related to this. Again, please write in your own stuff though too. Where like one of the things I want to bring up is this idea of like why will someone have an awakening experience and others don't? And are people predisposed to an awakening experience? Is there a gene? Lo and behold, there's literally been studies on this, and there's this thing called the God gene, which like there's a lot to say about it. Like some scientists definitely like will criticize it. There's been like a lot of research though that does have scientifically statistically significant like results showing that like a person with a very certain like little thing on a one gene will be like more likely to have to engage with spirituality and religion and mysticism and things like this. So they're trying to like study this. And I was really thinking about this like when we were before going into this, and I was like, maybe I do would have that or something. I don't know. Like maybe I would, but like I like that I also have the like I was thinking gene because I'm like, I do feel it like in a sense of like my skepticism. It does feel like biologically important, but like that I'm biologically adept at handling this in a healthier way than like the like just getting cracked wide open, you know? Like I feel like if you have a spiritual experience and you don't have the gene or whatever, like you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be less capable of moving through it in a healthy way. You know, like I feel like I was
Mm-hmm.
adept. Like I was capable. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that I was skeptical. Literally, I was trying to like fucking debunk astrology at every goddamn turn. Like it was hard for
I
me to move
know.
into this. Like to accept this was not easy, and I feel like that was a really big part of why I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like so I love this idea of like is can people be predisposed? And there is so much to say about it.
Well, that, similar concept, but when I think it was like the AB blood type came out, and then there was where it was like, if you have AB blood type, you're an alien. You're a descendant of aliens. It's so interesting as science and spirituality become friends. And you said something a long time ago. We were having a private chat, and there was something about I think the asteroid astrology, and I was like, "What the fuck are you
Uh,
like asteroid astrology?" And you're like, "I said." You said astrology and astronomy used to be married, and then
yep.
they had a bitter divorce. And so it's
Thank you,
like,
Christianity. Thank you, Christianity. That was it. Yeah, but yeah, keep going.
and so and so they had a bitter divorce. And so this with spirituality and science, it's like two enemies that were pitted against each other, but now it's like a romantic comedy. They're softening towards each other. And now, we're seeing this process of them coming together and being able to be in the same room, which was not possible before. When I first became a healer, it was science had no soul. Now science is beginning to have a soul. And you even said at that point that astrology and astronomy were starting to come back together
Yes.
and be
Yep.
able like to talk about the kids and like be in the same room from this
Mhm.
bitter divorce. And so it's wild to see. And I think we'll also see this a lot with Pluto and Aquarius, this energy, this language of being able to tolerate and be in the same room and also then grow from each other.
Totally. You know what? This is a very important thought, and I'm going to continue it right after we have our first commercial break because this is perfect. Okay. Like, you guys, we have an ad. Are you ready? You
No,
get
it's
this. Megan, you remember our good friend Ryan Hagan from episode 5?
sure do, sure do.
Ryan has developed this 12-week program, the Hagen Method. It's self-paced, which is amazing because it's a busy freaking world out there.
It's legit. It's aimed at working with the unhealed empath who are growth oriented, but feeling stuck in their relationship journey.
He's on a quest to help unhealed empaths get over codependent tendencies.
He had it peer reviewed by a neuroscientist, Dr. Christine Erickson.
Members will be able to schedule one-on-one access to Ryan. You'll get access to a private community with other program members. There will be standing weekly calls for discussions.
And the best part is that he is giving all of our listeners a 50% discount.
Oh yeah, that's the clairvoyance perk. Check our show notes because there's a link where you can book a free one-on-one consultation with Ryan to see if the program would be a good fit for you. And then if you decide that it is, We have a 50% discount code for you. You'll use the code Clairannoyance, and that is active until the end of February.
This is an opportunity for you to do some inner work, some inner healing. What's the best that could happen?
Wasn't that amazing? No, dead serious. That was our first ad ever. Thank you,
I know.
Ryan. Uh, I'm very excited, really, that his program will be amazing, and like it's the what we were saying, like that was literally the perfect segue. The like blending of science and spirituality is huge. There's
Hmm.
this quote from Albert Einstein that says, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." Like they must, and he was a like he pronounced like I think atheist. Like he definitely had no belief in God. But he people think that that's also a lie. Like he was like proudly not into this, but
Hmm.
he examined it in
He's a
such ways.
dabbler.
Yeah, well, and
It's
look
his
at this, like,
birthday.
because here's I forget, but here's this other quote from him that I think is really, really, really important.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's like two sentences, hang in there. Um, he says, if there is any such concept as a god, it is a subtle spirit, not an image of a man that so many have fixed in their minds. In essence, my religion consists of a humble admiration for this illimitable, superior spirit that reveals itself in the slight details that we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble minds. What's fascinating about that? So he's basically saying like he thinks that that, like he's saying it would be like a God gene, a God particle, like that
Hmm.
God would exist at these very subatomic like levels, right? But
Hmm.
then for him, this proud fucking like non-believer of anything bigger, for him to have that quote
Hmm.
and then to say compare the human experience by saying that we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble minds. That means he is this genius who has the
Hmm.
biggest fucking mind ever is calling himself frail and feeble, but that means he's comparing himself to something bigger. Literally, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Why do you mean you're frail and feeble mind? Because that means there's this all-knowing, much bigger thing that you can't reach. Like he's literally So it's so funny that he will say
Yeah.
things that show, I know I'm less than, I know I'm smaller than this bigger spiritual God, whatever thing. He's
Hmm.
saying it without really processing that he's saying it. And I think that's really fucking fascinating. This is not my thought. This is actually like scientists have like examined this.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. So he really did. And like so many people, even atheists, right? Like a very important person in my life here is a very, very, very big atheist. But like,
Mr.
um,
Man.
yeah, they just all like you think too big, to be that. Like it's fine. You don't have the language for what you really are, and that's fine, but it's definitely not atheist. And like
Hmm.
he was the one that had actually at the same freaking time, go figure, when my ex killed himself, he had a best friend from the same time. A best
Oh,
friend
wow.
killed himself, and his best friend's mom visited him in his dreams and told him. And so then it was like the next day he found out, and he doesn't have these experiences, So
Yeah.
he's like he has self-identified that as there might be something else going on here. I don't know what's
Or
going
at
on.
least yeah, at the very least, everyone's
Hmm.
interconnected. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't
but
tell,
that's
like when
an
you,
awakening right there, right?
yeah,
For an atheist, that's
for
an
sure.
awakening.
And also, you're Ryan and I are dramatic people, so of course
What?
our so of course our spirit anything to get our attention has got to be dramatic because we're dramatic. A spiritual awakening doesn't have to be this big showmanship. You don't have to see a
Hmm.
fucking screen play behind a man at that's giving you a Rudy speech at 4 a.m. It could literally be you're in the flowers, you're at a
Yeah.
park, you're at the beach looking into the ocean, and you're having this beautiful experience. So
Hell yeah, dude.
it can be beauty in the mundane.
Totally. But I want to validate your process too of like seeing something. Like that's like this is one of the things we can go much more in depth in like our next part. But there's this article, Are Spiritual Encounters All in Your Head? It doesn't matter if it is or not. Maybe our brain is just the
Ooh.
fucking transmitter for these experiences. Who the fuck cares, man? But like basically, there is a thing, a specific version of epilepsy that happens in the brain that will show you things, you know? So like basically if and this happens and like a spirit people have spiritual experiences through this version of epilepsy. So you maybe have this like epileptic thing going on in the brain that science can now actually discuss way better than I can, where you will see visions in the spiritual experience. And this is like biblical shit too, right? These people see visions like and when they're not on
Yeah.
drugs, like this can happen.
Yeah.
And they're the a person that's like actually studying this has created something called the God helmet, and it literally simulates. It's like a magnet that moves on the head, and like it simulates basically the experience of there's another being in the room with me. And this like total skeptic went and did this and was like, there, I felt
Wow.
this. You feel the presence, and it's like who's to say? Yeah, maybe it's all in your head. Maybe it's this
Wow.
simulation, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't care, but you're experiencing that. And this, to me, my bottom fucking line here, man. But like, we don't. I actually had so many other things I wanted to say about this, but maybe we like kind of like start wrapping this up because we just want to talk
Yeah.
generally and about the nature of spiritual awakenings. But my
Yeah,
bottom
right.
line
Deep dive.
that I definitely want people to ruminate on a little bit here is whether it's simulated in a god helmet, whether you have it on drugs, whether it's a past life experience, which by the way, I also fully believe, and I do want to talk about that. Go
Hmm.
go listen to Michelle Brock. Her episode, The Pilgrimage to Past Lives. Please go listen to that if you haven't already, but also go buy her fucking book.
Yeah, our girl's doing big things. I mean, that was dope.
Talking about that book when we she was talking she's been working on this books ever since I've known her. It's finally fucking out in the world. Beautiful. Fucking beautiful, 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 beautiful. And you need to go get it. Like link is in the show notes. Please like support Michelle Brock. Like she's doing
Yeah.
amazing things. Like seriously. And we're gonna have her back on to talk some cool shit. Anyway,
Hmm.
whether it's past lives, whether it's drug induced, whether it's simulated, whether it just happens because somebody dies, it's trauma, whatever, right? Whatever. We're having awakenings. Awakenings, it's one of those things, like Eric was saying, if it's happening enough, people are having these experiences, no matter how the fuck it happens. Here's this quote that is in this thing. Basically, it's talking about God as a chemistry in the mind, like that there's something there biologically, which is also like basically the part of this series is like, are people predisposed and physically whatever. But the point is, why does that occur? Why has the human organism been engineered, if you will, for this experience? To me, that is the bottom line. I know that doesn't even sound profound, probably, but seriously, we always think what, right? Like what what was your spiritual awakening? What happened?
Hmm.
Mo and like, is that the correct version or is that the correct version? Is it biological? Is it not? It's not that. It's why does this happen? Why? How is it possible? The fact is, we biologically feel it. Like you feel the awakening too, right? Like
Yeah.
you experience it consciously through whatever means, but why? Engineered or not, we have the capability of this experience. Why is it happening?
Hmm.
Meaning, like that takes my mind into the space of God exists. Like there's a consciousness out there with we
Yeah.
can feel it. How can it not be true? If
Yeah.
we experience it, no matter how we experience it, how it must
Yeah.
be true. We're in it, like we're feeling it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
blows my mind. I don't know. So we're gonna dive so deep into so much of this shit. Seriously. I'm very excited. This is a really interesting series. It's not going to be like our next episode probably, but because we gotta get the schedule going, you guys. But I don't know. We'll drop it soon here.
Yeah. We are on our shit.
And in the meantime, that gives you time to like write in about your awakenings, and we'll
And
we'll
to
share these.
ponder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll share these stories. Oh, the other one real quick thing that I do want to say is just that what I was telling you before is go to the February astrology forecast or if you've already listened to it, we talked about, I just think this is cool, astrology in action, right? Um,
Hmm.
that February relates to the not like a lot of there was a pile of planets in February 1962, and that was this really big dawning of the 60s counterculture movement, right? We
Hmm.
talked about psychedelics in that like little bit of that astrology forecast episode. There's this thing related to drugs helping people have a mystical or spiritual experience, but it literally says right here, the first, because I was like, I want to know if this 60s counterculture movement is coming back at this February. one of the first major rigorous study of psychedelics and spirituality occurred on Good Friday in 1962. So I don't think Good Friday's in February. I don't really know, but 1962, like this. So it's this whole the first major one about psychedelics and spirituality, and that was like so huge in this 60s counterculture movement. So it's already come back. I just think that's so funny that that theme is already back, and we're going to be talking about some of this shit we just did.
It's about time.
Go figure.
It's about time.
Yep. Um, anything you want to leave the people with to
No,
ponder?
I want them to ruminate on this, like, and see, like invite
Yeah.
this in.
Ask yourself, do you think it's biological? Do you think
Hmm.
it's chemical? Do you think it's just trauma? Like, what is it?
And if your
What was it?
bullshit flag, if your inner gremlin activates, and if you are a practicing Christian or a practicing whoever, and you immediately feel threatened by this, I want you to ask yourself why. Like always, anytime your triggers pop up and you feel threatened and your inner gremlin activates, I want you to ask yourself why, particularly in this space. If you are feeling threatened in the real world, obviously, but the minute you feel the need to actively defend or ha ha ha, ask yourself why, and let's start to dig. Let's start to see, do you have the God gene? And I think looking inside as you ask and activate this is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. 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 Love it.
So,
All right, everybody.
yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Go get Michelle Brock's book. Go check out the link for Ryan's new
No,
amazing coaching
look at our
series. It's gonna
friends
be
doing
like so
big
good.
things.
I know, and look at us having our first ad. Ugh,
So
you guys, we had
excited.
an ad. Can you believe it? We promise our ads, if we ever have more, they're just gonna be
When, not
only
if.
good things. No, I know. Um, they're only gonna be things we recommend. We're not gonna be
Yeah,
like
vetted.
sellouts.
Yeah, we're not going to be. Yeah, it's people, things that we know, we've reviewed,
Yeah.
we've done the darn thing.
And if you would like to have an ad run on our podcast, go to our website, fill out the
Yeah.
form, just let us know, get in touch, DM us on Instagram. We will
Yeah.
facilitate. We will facilitate.
On it.
Love it. Love
All right.
you.
Love you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.